Hey everybody, my name's Joseph Payton. Welcome back into the WSAZ Now studio. We're talking college football today. We are talking college football with none other than the play-by-play guy for the Marshall game on Saturday. There we got WSAZ Sports Director Keith Morehouse in here. Keith, everyone was playing on Saturday. Some folks walked away from it a little happier than others. Let's start with that Marshall game. You and I talked about that on this show last week, and we said if you do what you're accustomed to doing, you should win that game. But that's why you get out there and strap it up and play football. And it didn't turn out the way that Marshall fans expected it to. You were in the booth. You watched every snap. From your perspective, what happened out there?
Well, first of all, I do think Missouri State was better than maybe a lot of fans had given them credit for. Their quarterback, Jacob Clark, big 6'5" kid, throws the ball all over the lot, 7-year in college, so a veteran kid. So, he came in ready to play. Marshall's offense struggled very early. Second quarter, they got rolling and scored 17 points. The running game got on track. Joshawn Barbie and Justin Williams-Thomas, transfer from Cal, scored on a long run. So they got things untracked. But when we talked with Coach Gibson earlier this afternoon, on Tuesday afternoon, he basically talked about 3 or 5 plays that changed that whole game, and he's not wrong.
Any time a football game is determined, 3 to 5 plays determine a game. And 3 to 5 plays we could have made at any point that would have been different. You go back and watch the film, man, we had a lot of missed opportunities. We had guys running wide open. We had, we were there on defense, didn't make a play. They did a really good job with their screen game, which we knew. But this disappointing. One we should have won, we didn't. And now we got to move on.
That's what happens at that level of football. And he said their inability to stop Missouri State on third down and their inability to get their own conversions on third down. They were 3 of 15, basically were the difference in the game. I thought the game changed, Joseph. Marshall in the second half just gashing it down the field. Joshawn Barbie and the run game was clicking. They get down to 5-yard line. It's 3rd and 1, and they had run the ball so successfully. And so it's 20-14 at this point. If they go in and kick a field goal, it's a 2-score game. I think that's probably it. If they score a touchdown, I think it's definitely it. But on 3rd and 1, Zion Turner decided to opt out of the run and had an RPO and threw a fade to the end zone, incomplete. The kicker came on, Lorcan Quinn, and he clanged it off the upright. So they got all that way, didn't score. It's 20-14 and new life from Missouri State. They march it down, hit a big screen pass, another thing that Marshall kind of over-pursued, and they ended up winning the game. So it was a lesson, and Coach Gibson came out into the news conference, and he had a pretty impassioned message about what he thought about this game. And when you think about it, he said, look, we got to get it fixed. You got to be with us. It's 70 new guys out there. All those things are true. But there are sometimes in a college season where you just think things slip away. That one slipped away from Marshall.
Yeah, you talked about that third down there, knocking on the door of the goal line, 3rd and 1. You got a chance to ask Coach Gibson about that as well. Mm-hmm. What did he have to say about kind of, what was supposed to be run out there versus what happened?
Yeah, and he blamed it all on himself and the coaches. He said, look, let's put that on Zion because Zion thought he saw something. If your quarterback thinks he's going to run an RPO and he sees something he likes, you give him the liberty to do it. But in that situation at that particular time, Coach Gibson said we should have locked it into a run, not given him the option to do to RPO or throw to a little fade route. And he said that's on us, and we got to make sure that doesn't happen again. So he wasn't throwing Zion under the bus or anything like that. He said he was happy with the run game. The defense played well enough to win. There are a couple of plays they went for a fake punt, didn't get it, and Coach Gibson said that was all on him. He goes, I called it. I take full responsibility. So I think kids today and, just in general in college and pro and high school, if the coach, takes the blame and, admits where he messed up and then they go try to fix it, then everybody's good, So there's no hidden agenda by anybody. That's a game that Coach Gibson and the players thought they should have won, and they said that in the news conference, and now they move on to Eastern Kentucky.
You talked about just the third downs really on both sides of the ball, whether you're able to convert on offense or able to get off the field on third down. I mean, third down is a high-value down, whether that's, again, converting on offense, getting off the field on defense. I mean, even Missouri State's first touchdown, Marshall had them pinned 3rd and 12.
Yeah,
and not only do they convert, they score on it.
Yeah.
And so gosh, it just goes to show that, like, not every down is created equally in football, and those margins are slim, especially in those pivotal positions like that.
Yeah, and their quarterback, Jacob Clark, as I talked about, I watched him against USC. They did the same thing against USC. Of course, they got rolled, but they had a couple of big-time plays off the screens, to let the rush in, and if your quarterback's cool and composed, throwing a little a throwback screen, and you can go for a lot of yards. That happened in that fourth quarter, which led to the eventual winning touchdown. So that's, you don't want to get on your guys for over-pursuing, because Marshall got pressure on Clark all night long. But he basically, kind of hoodwinked him into one more time, and then they had the answer for it. So a lot of chess games in coaching and football games, and give credit to Ryan Beard and the staff at Missouri State and Clark. They played really well, and their first win in FBS, first one since 1990. So, they're going to have fun in Conference USA this year. And with their weapons, they're going to win some games in that league, as far as I think.
Nothing can be done about that result now, and I'm sure that's what Coach Gibson's telling his team. We got to move on, because Saturday we're playing another ball game. So Eastern Kentucky, how do you view this matchup?
Yeah, I watched Eastern Kentucky play Louisville in the opener. Of course, Louisville, really explosive team. They've got running backs, quarterbacks, dynamic people on both sides of the ball, and they pretty much made it a mismatch. But Eastern Kentucky's got a DB, Vito's his first name, and he Tisdale, and he had a pick six at Louisville, also an interception in their win against Houston Christian this last week at home. So they come in. Walt Wells brings that team in, FCS team, Eastern Kentucky, and Marshall and Eastern have a long relationship from way back in the 1AA days. So, I think Tony Gibson will tell his guys, look, you don't look past anybody. I mean, look what happened last week. Marshall favored to beat Missouri State. So Walt Wells is going to bring his group in here, and he'd love nothing better than to pull a stunner off. I mean, just a couple hours away. It's a nice regional matchup you can have. He brought his first Eastern Kentucky team in here in 2020 during COVID, and Marshall won at 59-0. I remember Grant Wells had a huge day that day. But Wells has done a good job in Richmond, and I look for Marshall. They need to come in and focus as if they're playing Georgia or anybody else that they're going to see on their schedule, because we talked about the newness of the program, the players, the coaching staff. Every game is big, and it matters. And so I imagine they'll get their full attention on Saturday night.
And, I tell our kids all the time, Eastern Kentucky, they've won a lot of games. They've won games on this field. They won games that mattered on this field. So they're coming in here. They're not going to be intimidated by coming to Huntington and playing against us right now.
I guess we didn't see any other quarterbacks but Zion Turner this past Saturday, right? So does it seem like he's the guy moving forward, or he would give him a reason to lose the job?
I think Coach Gibson gave him the reins because of how he played at Georgia, and he moved the team the best at Georgia. And Coach Gibson hasn't hidden behind this. He said there's no difference from this week and the last 3 game weeks I talked about. Whoever practices best will start. So if that's Ja'Kai Long, it's Ja'Kai Long. If it's Carlos Del Rio Wilson, it's him. If it's Zion Turner, it's him. But he truly is trying to find one of these guys to emerge and separate himself. And so he's not going to name a starter, and I assume that we'll know on Saturday at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. As soon as they trot out onto the field, huh?
Yeah, 1, 6, or 7, I think is what we're looking for.
Yeah, and you're on the call again, so people can expect that. If they're not at the game, that'll be fun for you. Thought you did a good job last week, at least the highlights that I saw.
Thank you.
Good stuff. You want to go up north a little bit to Athens, talk about that game?
Yeah, we were watching that in the booth before the Marshall game started. It was an intriguing matchup. And I told somebody today, Joseph, I said, look, that game was never going to be easy for West Virginia. Ohio's coming off 11-win season. Parker Navarro's back. Bangura's back. A lot of their good defenders were back. And that was always going to be a close game. And I thought Ohio, which I didn't really expect, their defensive line to dominate like they did. And that's the one thing that I took away from the game, was how dominant they were and how they made it hard on West Virginia's offense.
Yeah, they were smacking guys around. And I was worried about the Ohio defense after a lot of the plays they gave up at Rutgers. I didn't feel like they were really getting pressure in the backfield, and that quarterback there carved them up. West Virginia wasn't able to have that same success. They struggled to run the ball. They struggled to throw it too.
Yeah, they got some heat on Mark Eole, and obviously, when Jaheim White went down, that was a huge blow. He's their most reliable, most explosive player on offense. A Big 12 all preseason player for a reason. And so when he went down, I think that probably took some air. But the one thing I also didn't see coming was they picked Navarro off 3 times and weren't able to capitalize. And you you've got to take advantage of your takeaways, and they were unable to do that. And so because of that, they scored 10 points, which if you told me they go in there and score 10 points, I wouldn't have believed that either. But Ohio is real. I mean, they ordinarily don't get Power 4 teams at Payton. Mm-hmm. They're usually going somewhere else and pulling an upset. But those of us who've been up there and watched a lot of football, you don't just roll your helmet out in Athens and get a win. They always play hard at home, and they were particularly excited and invested in this one because they had this opportunity in front of the biggest crowd in the history of the stadium to make a statement, and they did.
26,740, and I wouldn't be surprised if 13,000 of that were WVU fans. They were loud.
They traveled, yes.
They traveled, man. It was unbelievable. Even pregame, they're all over the place on Court Street. Their tents are visible from just about anywhere on campus. It was the best atmosphere I have ever seen at Payton Stadium, and that was fun regardless of the result for who you cheer for.
Yeah, and the Mountaineers, they've got another turnaround with a big game against Pitt this week, and we now know that Jaheim White is out for the season, which is even more difficult news for them to digest. But for Rich Rodriguez, they got to figure it out. And he said in his news conference that he's not sure about the quarterback situation either. Not that he's said Marchiol didn't do well, but they've got some questions, obviously. Similar to Tony Gibson, they've got 65 new players. So he's figuring it out too. And you got to figure it out against your backyard brawl rival after you have an emotionally charged loss against a team with a real intriguing matchup at Ohio. So, they're digging into the playbooks and scratching heads and doing everything in Morgantown this week because that's a huge game. It would have been a huge game anyway. Mm-hmm. Now it's even bigger because of what happened in Athens.
Yeah, and because of what happened in Athens, plus with Jaheim White going down, do you feel like Coach Rodriguez might abandon the up-tempo stuff offensively? I mean, they did it against Robert Morris. They tried to do it against Ohio, but when you're not getting first downs, you're going 3 and out there, all of a sudden your defense is back on the field as soon as they get on the bench on the sideline.
Yeah, and that's the blessing and the curse of if you go turbo. If you go turbo and you're getting first downs and you got the defense on its heels, that's all well and good. But like you say, if you're not and things aren't going real well, your defense needs a blow. And obviously I think that was a factor late in the game. That's playing right into Ohio's hands. They'd rather hold on to the ball and give it to Bangura and let him do his thing. And and I think all coaches have to grasp at that. If you do that up-tempo stuff, you got to know when to do it and maybe when to back off. And Pitt comes in with a good quarterback, and there's going to be a great atmosphere in Morgantown for that one too. So that's going to be intriguing how they rebound from that game in Athens and turn right around and go into the backyard brawl, 108th, I think, backyard brawl.
Yeah. But what an opportunity to maybe win back the fan base a little bit after loss. You beat Pitt at home. You're a 7.5-point dog. You can talk that up in your locker room as well. Everyone's counting you out now like they're going to go, insert small amount of wins,
right?
Large amount of losses here, right? I mean, what an opportunity, despite what just happened, to win back your fan base and maybe even the locker room.
Yeah, and maybe that's a good thing Pitt's next, right? That gets your attention right away. You throw that stuff away on Sunday, get everybody back practicing, and then it's Pitt week. So there's no time to feel sorry for yourself. You got to jump right into this one, and the fans will be ready, and they want to win just as badly as Rodriguez and his players. And so I think that'll be a really fun game to watch on Saturday.
Yeah. WVU fans never like to lose, but they would probably rather have lost last Saturday than this Saturday.
Oh, if you'd asked them before the season, you got to pick one, they'd have picked.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would. They might have said, I'm not picking one.
Yeah.
Because that's what college football fans are.
Yeah.
But first of all, they said, we're not going to lose to Ohio. But if you have to pick one, now you do. And so go beat Pitt, and then everybody's fine again, and you get to swing into conference play and see how that goes.
Yeah. All right, how about the Buckeyes? 70-0 over Grambling State. I mean, not a whole lot to say there, but Keith, take a look at our notes. Look at who Ohio State's leading rusher was.
I saw that, and I thought, man, aren't they good enough? Do they really need a guy named Bo Jackson?
Right.
That's just silly. They did. I watched the highlights, and when they give Sayan that much time, and you can open up the playbook, and you start bringing tight ends into the deal, and Jeremiah Smith was unstoppable. The fact the bands were playing together, that was maybe the biggest highlight of the weekend, because the Grambling State band is what we know them to be, and we know what the Ohio State band, what they think of themselves, and they are really good. So that was good, but that was just kind of a tune-up game and let some of the other guys play. And Keinholtz got some run in the second half for Ohio State. So that one was just about as exactly as maybe we thought it would go.
Yeah. Sayan's only incompletion was an interception. Other than that, 18 of 19, 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. Bo Jackson, as we mentioned, he's a freshman running back that people feel like has a pretty high ceiling. Went for what did he have there? 108 yards on 9 carries. I think he broke one. That was about a 51-yarder. And a touchdown, scored at least 14 points in every quarter.
Yeah.
So no let up.
Carnell Tate was good too. I think, and then we talked about West Virginia going to the pit game. Well, look what Ohio does. They come off this big emotional win, and they got to go to the horseshoe, which, we know all the Rufus and
somebody
Brutus
put a muzzle
battles.
on Rufus, man.
Yeah, so that's going to be. Ohio's going to be so invested in that. Ohio State obviously will be favored, and they should win. But, you get the bunch of Bobcats all fired up. That game might be closer than what we think after what we saw Saturday.
Brian Smith's probably thinking, man, Ohio State always plays at noon, but when we come to town, we got to do it at 7 p.m.
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
That's what the Buckeyes fans love. They've been getting up early for a long time, and I know they're upset about that. So they'll be sufficiently tailgated by the time that game starts.
31-point spread.
That's what it is, huh?
I kind of thought it might be a little lower than that, but hey, Ohio State is the number 1 team in America, so I get it. I get it.
They have so many weapons, and Ohio's defense was really good against West Virginia. They're going to have to be even better just to throttle those guys a little bit because, like I said, when he gets his play action going, his run game going, you got to pick your poison on who you're going to stop, and it's a tall task for any defense.
Yeah. Were you able to catch any of the Kentucky game? I saw some highlights myself.
Yeah, I checked out the highlights, and Mark Stoops says he was talking kind of like Tony Gibson. They're just a few plays here and there where they thought they were there, made some mistakes, critical mistakes in a game against a good team will kill you every time. And I thought they played hard and played well, and then their quarterback got banged up a little bit, and he said they will see Cutter Boley this week. He will play. I'm not saying he's going to start, but he's going to see some time.
Well, good game for him to probably see some time. It's Eastern Michigan. They're 0-2. You've already played one MAC opponent who is much better than what Eastern Michigan is, and you took care of business against them. So not a bad time for him to start out there if that's who they end up rolling with. But, gosh, they probably feel like, man, we did beat Ole Miss last year. They jump out on them 10-0. You're feeling good. And not that it got away from them because it was close late. But, you lose to a team ranked in the top 25. You feel like, man, a couple plays here and there, and they'd have been on the other end of it.
Yeah, and this is, Coach Stoops, that's now 8 losses in a row to SEC teams in Lexington. And that there's no shame in that. There's some great teams coming in there, obviously. But when you get a chance to get one, you got to register and check it off. And he feels like they could have done that. And I don't blame him. That's such a difficult league with so many great athletes. But the Cats need to get some of those to get the fans riled up again. But he goes into the MAC this week and should right the ship and then get ready for conference play.
That game against Eastern Michigan is at 7:30 p.m. there at Kroger Field. Do they still call it Commonwealth Stadium, too, or is it just Kroger Field these days?
When I refer to the stadium, I call it Commonwealth, but then when you just say field, it's Kroger Field, I guess. Field. I don't know. I like the
the Horseshoe has Safe Flight Field. It is on the turf now.
That's right. Well, they got Frank
Solich. Don't call it that. They won't like
Payton
that.
Stadium, Frank Solich Field, and they've got Milan Puskar Stadium, which I still call Mountaineer Field sometimes, on a good way. But, the donors, they get some they get some run too.
And that's the way of the world now. You got to take care of them, right?
Well, you do, especially in this day of the Dutch Miller party deck over at Marshall. That was kind of a fun thing to watch as they got a nice perspective on that game. But in this day and time, it's about who's going to fund your program and give you NIL money and see how you can compete against the big boys.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts as it pertains to the world of college football? Anything you saw elsewhere? I believe I think he's a Jackson alum. Cade Wolford was on ESPN's Top 10.
Oh, wow.
Touchdown catch. He plays for Kent State.
Yeah.
They broke their losing streak. He had 2 touchdowns last week.
That's awesome.
So
that's
good
awesome.
for Cade Wolford, man.
Yeah, saw a lot of local players. Carryon Martin at Marshall used to play at Capitol. He had 13 tackles. He was all over the field Saturday. So, and Cannon Lewis, he came from Cabell Midland. He said in the news conference, man, he goes, it was so much fun. He goes, I probably knew half the stadium in there. He goes, it was so cool to be back home. But to see these kids that, we call their games on Friday night in high school, and to watch them go to succeed at the college level, that's really cool to watch. It really is.
I'm always on the lookout for, wait, where's this kid from? Is he from our area? I actually went looked at EKU's roster and I thought, surely there's somebody from Ashland or something on there. Didn't see anyone. So correct me if I'm wrong, anyone listening to this. I was looking for some, more Northeast Kentucky guys. I think there might be a Johnson Central grad that plays for EKU.
Usually you see those guys, they percolate all over, and it's just cool to see, and it makes you have a little more interest in the games when you say, hey, that kid was in high school around here. Yeah,
we know that guy. We know their family a little bit.
Right.
Well, Keith, appreciate you joining us. I'm sure the Marshall faithful, if they're not in the stadium, they'll be tuned into the broadcast with you on it. So.
Well, that's supposed to be a beautiful weekend in Morgantown and Huntington and Columbus. So I mean, what's better than going out and watching football, right? I'd say go for it. We're going to miss these weekends in November when it's 40 and rainy.
It keeps us busy right now, but we certainly miss them when it's June and you're like, well,
12 games go by fast, don't they?
Yeah, they sure do.
They do. Yep.
All right, Keith, buddy, appreciate you for joining us, man.
Yep.
All right, everyone, that has been another edition of WSAZ Sports Plus. Remember, we're doing these college football episodes every Wednesday, and it's the same place that you can always find WSAZ Sports Plus. So on the WSAZ app or WSAZ.com, we're going to be streaming these on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Full episodes always posted on WSAZ.com, always posted on our YouTube channel. We're going to be posting clips all over social media as well if you go to @WSAZ Sports Plus on pretty much any platform. And then, of course, in audio format on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can listen to me, Keith, Jimmy, and whoever else we decide to get up here. We might have Andrew Colgrove up here at some point. He's in the swing of things on Football Friday night, bringing the laughs, bringing the energy there at the end of the show. So that does it for this episode of WSAZ Sports Plus. I am Joseph Payton. Thanks to Keith Morehouse for joining me up here on this episode. We will see you all same time, same place next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m.